Okay, we're continuing with the quote book, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, P. Rogers. Okay, we're on the Buddha. The Buddha lived from 564 to 480 BC, sort of. Well, that's too long. Oh, no, that could make sense. So, right sort of before the high times in Athens. And he was a philosopher from India. Brahmism is based on the Vedic writings and is considered an early form of Hinduism. And by the way, I'm not an expert on this stuff at all. I just, have all my quote stuff together and I got a little bit of stuff on the Buddha. I don't even remember where I heard all this stuff. But I can tell you, I did at one time try to ask myself, what is the best religion? What can I learn from these Eastern religions and stuff? And I can tell you, I was not that impressed by all these Eastern religions and things. What I saw was, I'll show you, we'll come to it in a moment, but Brahmism emphasized the caste system. Okay, so a lot of people try to say, "Oh, America's so racist." Oh, give me a freaking break! Everybody comes from all over the world. They want to stay in America. They don't want to go back to their own country. They want to stay in America, especially when America was sort of its traditional Christian sense. Okay, Brahmism had this caste system, and Buddhism does not have a caste system, so it's favored by low caste, poor people. Buddha's goal was to cultivate compassion and wisdom, and in so doing, to achieve nirvana. You can think of him as having lived around 500 BC. He was a handsome, wealthy prince with a wife and kids, and at about age 30, he decided to give up his wealth and fame, become a philosopher. He begged for food, and he did a lot of nice things. He sounded like a very nice guy, okay? But he was not a god. Buddhism doesn't have a god, okay? So it's a godless religion. I also didn't see him, I saw him as a nice aesthetic guru and, gave good advice to people, was nice and thoughtful. All that's all good. But he's not a god. I didn't get any strength from him. Christianity makes you stronger. And anybody who doubts that, just take a look at the greatest creative artist who ever lived, Bach. I do every composition to the greater glory of God. Michelangelo, I put all my trust in God and do everything for him, out of hope in him. Isaac Newton, the smartest person who ever lived, greatest scientist who ever lived. He spent more than half his time studying the Bible. So what I'm saying is that Christianity energizes you. And I think the way it energizes you is that basically you say to yourself, life has meaning. Humans are special. We're not just, talking monkeys like atheistic Darwinism says. And you see yourself as part of this worldwide struggle between good and evil. And you say, I'm going to be on the part of good. I'm going to try do something good myself. What I'm saying is, what I've seen, my impression from looking at a lot of people from a lot of different cultures, is that most people, all they really care about is themselves, their family, and maybe their ethnic group, maybe their country, but they don't feel an obligation beyond that to mankind. That's been my impression. And also, a lot of religions, they forbid art. And because the religion forbids art, they call it idolatry, they stink at art, okay? They just do. And that's why I think, almost all the great books, the great novels are all written by Christians, okay? Because the Christian theme of redemption, it just resonates with the human soul, okay? Because I see lots of high IQ people, but I don't see that many of them doing stuff that sort of benefits mankind. And you take a look at these Indians, or some of them are really, really smart. Like, look at Dinesh D'Souza. He's a Christian. Okay, look at Vishal Mangalwadi, his book, The Book That Made Your World. He said the exact same thing in his book. The Christian missionaries that had converted a lot of the Indians to Christianity, the ones that were converted to Christianity, they did more things outside of their own family, their own self, their own country. And they'll have a lot of great achievements. That's been the pattern that I have seen. It brings you outside of yourself and your family, okay? So you sort of say to yourself, I will do something great for all of mankind, and that inspires you to do something that has more of this altruistic component to it. I think that's just true. And if you doubt it, look it up for yourself. You'll see it for yourself. Look at Vishal Mangalwadi's book. He's the Indian guy who wrote the book about the Bible. It's magnificent. Okay, let's see what else. Also, there was Asoch, the ruler who conquered India, I think back around 400 BC, and he wanted everybody to convert to Buddhism. And I believe the reason he did that is because he wanted to pacify them. Asoch was this brutal ruler, and he wanted everybody to sit around meditating, staring at the wall, saying Om, because that way they would be easier to control. A lot of times that's what rulers want. They want people who are easy to control. So they want them to look inward, like a navel gazing, look at your belly button, and, say Om to the wall rather than, look around you and at the bigger picture. All right. Let's see. Like here's some typical quotes by the Buddha. He says that sometimes it is better to be kind than to be right. Sometimes we need a heart that listens more than an intelligent mind that speaks. A wise man, recognizing that the world is but an illusion, does not act as if it is real, so he escapes the suffering. Okay, and I can tell you, I'm not that thrilled with this last quote. A wise man recognizes the world is but an illusion. And I think that's part of the problem with Buddhism and a lot of Eastern thinking. If you say that, Maya, there is no reality, everything is an illusion, well, that's not very motivating. If you say man is created in the image of God, and in a sense that the universe is knowable and he can know the universe, that's motivating to study the universe. God the Creator created us, therefore we can create like He did. That's a motivator to create, okay? So I think Asoch intentionally wanted the people to become Buddhists because they'd be easier to control, and I don't think it energizes people too much. I've studied a lot of great geniuses and heroes, and I hear them saying all the time, Jesus Christus motivated them. I don't hear them saying Buddha motivated them. I just don't hear it, okay? Maybe I'm wrong. Put it in the comments. I'll be happy to look it up, but I don't see it. Okay, Comte de Buffon. So he lived from 1707 to 1788. He was a real famous as a naturalist, one of the early biologists studying the creation of the species and all that stuff. He said, to write well is to think well, to judge well, and to render well. It is to possess at once intellect, soul, and taste. And I would actually agree with that idea that it's really worth your while to spend a lot of time trying to learn how to write well. Very few people can write well. I've seen tons and tons of writing of different people in a lot of different contexts, and I can tell you, it's really, really, really rare that somebody can write well. Almost everybody can speak pretty well because when they speak, they keep within their own safe, limited range. But when they have to write, they often are writing about something that's out of their comfort zone, and they really don't know how to write well. So what I'm saying is, look at Ben Franklin, how he taught himself how to write. It's easy to learn how to write. You just have to put the time into it. It'll take you about 6 months to a year to get good at writing. You simply talk the way you would talk to an intelligent friend. And then you have to sort of trust yourself and go with your gut feeling. Because your gut feeling usually tells, just like when you're having a conversation with a friend, just like you can feel that this is going to be funny or my friend would like this, then that's what you should write and say. Okay, but of course a lot of times you have to be chicken because it's in some official context or some legal context or something. But still, if you write a lot, you get better at it. And what I did was, when I make medical notes or radiology reports or when I write email, I try to make something good about my writing. I always do that. And the reason is, you could say to yourself, well, why do I waste my time trying to always do it stuff good, do it well? Because I want to stay good at it. Like I'll use punctuation, semicolons, and all this stuff. And I'm always playing around with writing and, seeking embodied simulation and all that stuff because I want to be good at it. And if a lot of times you'll get busy with work or something, and if you always do half-ass lousy writing at work, then you're not going to be that good at it when you come back to it and want to do it for a book chapter or something. So anyways, good habits make you good, and always be saying, how can I be more concise? How can I be more precise? How can I make this flow? How will the listener hear this? And if you spend time doing that, you'll get better at writing. Okay, next person we're going to talk about is Charles Bukowski. He was a writer. He'll be the last person for this set of quotes. He said, if you are going to try to write a book, go all the way or don't start. Unless it comes out of your soul like a rocket, unless being still would drive you to madness, then don't do it. When it is truly time, and if you have been chosen, it will do it by itself. And it will keep on doing it until you die, or it dies in you. There is no other way. So what he's basically saying is, it's a little bit like Arthur Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer said, a fruit tree creates fruit. A writer creates writings. If it's really in your gut that you want to do this, you'll just do it. And you have to feed the system too. I mean, if you want to be a writer, Stephen King has said it. You have to, and all the other writers said the same thing. You have to constantly be reading because that's how you just get really good with words. And everybody's going to say they don't have enough time, but I've already told you, I made a video about it, the magic bathroom. You should always read at least a page when you walk into the bathroom. You should always listen to an audiobook. Whenever I hear somebody listening to beat music in a car, I automatically think there's a stupid person, okay? If you have that time in a car, it's a precious time to, educate yourself. You should be listening to a podcast or an audiobook. If you do that every day, you just keep getting better and better and better. And most people never improve. I know lots of people, they stay about the same. 10, 20, 30, 40 years go by, and they never improve. Where somebody who's always listening to audiobooks, their knowledge is always going up. So why not be that way? You might as well. Life is difficult. You're going to have to work your tail off. Most of us have a lot of drudgery and boredom in the regular jobs we do to make money. So, if you can listen to an audiobook, what I find sometimes too, that I'll do too, if I'm doing something that's easy, like really busy work for me, I'll play an audio book or video or something, and I'll play it like half speed. And I realize that's multitasking or really on and off switching tasks, but I'm so bored with the tedious thing that I can handle that. And I can get through a lot of lectures and stuff, and I constantly learn stuff. And I enjoy fiction. I think that going through these best novels of all time, they force you to pay attention the whole way through. When you listen to a nonfiction book, it's always, this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph. But when it's a whole story, your brain is keeping the whole thing in play, and that's very enjoyable, and it just makes you verbally smart. It just does. And it's pleasant, so why not do it? Okay, true creation is a solitary act. You'll hear lots of people say that, like Nikola Tesla, and you'll hear it, the guy who invented the Apple computer. It's pretty uniform, so that basically it's a lot of fun to talk to other people. It's a lot of fun to enjoy all kinds of entertainment, but where I've seen creative ideas usually come from is, you just wake up in the morning and then you toss and turn them and you're like, hey, that's a good idea. And then I jump out of bed and I write it down real fast before I forget it. That's where good ideas come. The other thing I have is I'll take a shower in the morning, and when I'm taking a shower, oh man, another long, boring day at work. All of a sudden, I get a good idea. I jump out of the shower, write it down real fast. Always write it down real fast on a note card or something, because those are the best ideas. Okay? And then I write it on a note card, and then when I get a free moment that day on my computer, I'll make that video. Okay, Bukowski continues. Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you should be? Okay, we all kind of get forced to do stuff that's not our first choice, because a lot of times that's where the money is. Like you practice conventional medicine, you just show up, generate a billing code, you get paid. Okay, whereas on the internet, I can make the best video ever in the history of the world that helps a lot of people. I don't get one penny for it, but I feel good about doing it, so I do it anyways as a hobby. But just because something's good, quite often the good stuff, it's hard to monetize creativity. Okay, Bukowski continues. The free soul is rare, but you know it when you see it. Basically, you feel good, very good, when you are near or with them. And like I said, that was kind of like my mom, and that's also like some of my good friends have been. And also, everybody feels more comfortable talking to their family because you know each other. But basically, it's pleasant to just let whatever come out, and have a fun with it. A lot of times there's this weird little feeling. A joke comes to you, and you just want to tell the joke, Bukowski continues, wherever the crowd goes, you should run in the other direction. The crowd is always wrong. Okay, he continues, people are strange. They're constantly angered by trivial things, but on a major matter like totally wasting their lives, they hardly seem to notice. Okay, now that sounds a lot like Soren Kierkegaard, Okay, he says Soren Kierkegaard says something very much like that. Okay, Bukowski continues. Slavery was never abolished. It was only extended to include all the colors. Okay, yeah, that's something too. In the United States, people think slavery is only the blacks. You know what? My father's side of the family is Irish. Okay, they were enslaved by the Brits for over 1,000 years, and they're still getting destroyed and sided now. It's sad. It's really just sad what happened to Ireland. Okay, let's see. Charles Bukowski continues. I stopped looking for a dream girl, and I just wanted one that wasn't a nightmare. Okay, so that's it for Charles Bukowski quotes. Hope that was interesting, useful.